Well, if you've never been to Tortilla Flat, I highly recommend it. It's a great trip. Tortilla Flat is located in south central Arizona. We get out there at least once a year. Jacob Waltz was the old prospector that found a gold mine, so the fable goes, and he's known as the Lost Dutchman. He's not Dutch, he's German. I think they got Dutch, I read somewhere, from Deutsch for German. This highway we're on is originally the Apache Trail. This was used by the Apache Indians to traverse the Superstition Mountains. It later became a stagecoach line, and then after that it became paved and it was State Route 88, which is what it's now. Pretty much runs between Apache Junction and Globe, Arizona, but once you go past Tortilla Flat, it's no longer paved. It's just a very rugged gravel road with a lot of washouts, a lot of steep drop-offs and no guardrails. So it's a 10 or 15 mile an hour road at best. And I've made the trip one time, but it's quite a ride up there. Right now we're by Canyon Lake, and we're going to get a little closer look at it here. Well, we'll put the drone up here and get a little better look from above. Typical blue sky in Arizona. Was a great day for doing this. A lot of kayakers, great fishing here. Largemouth, smallmouth bass, yellow bass, catfish, carp, brim, just about anything you want to catch. There's a marina a little bit to the right of us here. We're here on a weekday, so not very much traffic. This is a pretty popular place to come. It's not that far out of Apache Junction. See a lot of these one-lane bridges here. Everybody has to just take their turn. Marina's off to our left here. Tortilla Flat was a stage stop for quite a while. There was a small school there that was actually functional for many years. And it was pretty much used by prospectors and just adventure type people. It started becoming a tourist area more towards the 30s, I think, is when people started just going there for no other reason than just to see what was out there. All the dams were built with what they call contract labor, and meaning that the government just paid people time and materials and they got to add on a percentage for their profit. Here we are at the beginning of Tortilla Flats. It's the proverbial wide spot on the road. We'll get the drone up a little bit. You'll see a little bit more of why it's just a wide spot in the road, but if you look down there towards that last building just past the flag there, well, that's the end of Tortilla Flat. So there's not a lot here, but we enjoy coming here.
Ah, those things, they bite, you know. That's a close picture, right?
Let's take it. Sandfly. Where'd the girls go, you know?
Girls be in the shop, I'm guessing.
That first one, you think, or?
I don't know, I didn't see them.
Well, I don't know about you, but if you've been in one gift shop, you've been in every gift shop. Here's Irene checking out some of the goods here. All gift shops have to have the same stuff for sale. You got to have your horseshoe puzzle game. Of course, you got to have some t-shirts and some hats. Then you need a place to stack up your personalized mugs with your name on it. And you need something to draw attention to something different, like a buffalo head in the desert. Then you need jewelry cases, books, plenty of trinkets, funny signs, Indian blankets, more hats. And of course, in the Southwest, you got to have books about the Southwest, and you have to have a lot of trinkets, jewelry, knife with genuine buckskin sheaths, some rings, some pens. Then of course, being in the Southwest, you got to have some turquoise. Pretty much sums it up. Peter and Irene checking out the books from the local area here. And of course, you got to have some tourists. Well, here we are at the Superstition Saloon. It's time for lunch. I've eaten here several times. The food's always been excellent. Every vertical surface in this place is covered with dollar bills that people have signed their name to and put a date on. If you want to add to the collection, I think you'd have to have quite a step ladder and get up into the rafters because there's just no available space. A lot of interesting things in here. One of the things I found most interesting is that. That's a genuine rattlesnake skin. I asked about its authenticity and was assured, yes indeed, it was a rattlesnake skin that was taken from the area. Wouldn't want to meet up with that fellow. Even the reception area is covered with dollar bills. Now when they say saddle up to the bar here at the Superstition Saloon, they mean just that. You need to saddle up. It's a great place to sit and enjoy a cocktail and have a sandwich. Peter and Irene here checking out all the things there are to see inside this place. Of course, they've got some music outside. It's kind of interesting to see entertainment there every day.
Road, my friend, is gonna keep you free. Now you're out, brother's home. You work your mama, so with a favorite one. She began to cry when you said goodbye. Sink into your dreams.
Well, we'll take a little tour around town here. Obviously, this is a great stop for motorcyclists. It's a nice twisty ride up here. Interesting sign, it doesn't say no vacancy, it just says no motel. Really no place to stay here. Of course, no ghost town would be complete without some old relics, some real and some not so real. This stagecoach was a replica of something, but the rest of this looks pretty genuine for the era. This was the old schoolhouse. It was there for quite a few years. It's just 2 rooms. I imagine it was pretty hot in the summertime before they had air conditioning. This road here, right at the edge of town, frequently, well, not frequently, it doesn't rain that often, but whenever it does rain, it floods. It gets water over that road right away. You can see these rocks are all washed smooth from all the sand and grit and gravel that goes down with the water. This was an interesting group of motorcyclists. They had some handicapped fellows here. There were 2 motorcycles just alike, this one and the one in front of it, and you could see they modified those so they could roll the wheelchair right up in there and lock it in and pull the tailgate up behind them. It was a pretty slick idea. Well, we'll get the drone up in the air here and take a look around. As you can see, the description of this town fits it well, just a wide spot in the road. This is all the Superstition Mountains here. I'm sure all of these stones have some kind of a name somewhere. One of these is called Monument Rock, but I've been so many places that had a place called Monument Rock that I don't recall if this is the one or not. Pretty desolate land. Driving out here, I see the telephone poles and the infrastructure that's been put in to bring electricity out here, and I wonder what kind of a job that must be to travel up and down these really tough terrain, and how do you get drilling rigs and things in there to drill through solid rock to set a telephone pole. And considering it was done many years ago, before we even had the modern contrivances that we have now. One of the things I did notice after I looked at my drone picture, all the times I've been through town there, I never realized there's a couple of homes or some other structures up behind the place. You don't see that at all when you're walking down the boardwalk there. You see they have some water tanks up there, and I think one of those little places even had a swimming pool. It hadn't rained that long ago, so there are still some water in that little bit of a ditch there. That's typically totally dried up. There's very rarely I've ever seen any water there. I've thought about flying my drone in a lot of different places, and after looking at this, you know, I always got a little nervous whenever I'd fly it over the water, thinking, well, if that thing goes down, I'm never going to get it back. Well, I can't see that flying over the water is any different than flying over this terrain, because if it went down back up in these hills here, I'm sure I'd never be able to retrieve it. I'd just let the snakes and scorpions have it. Getting ready to leave here in a little bit. Got to get the bird back down and packed up, ready to go. We're going to stop at the Goldfield Mine on the way back. It was a working mine many years ago, maybe about the same time that the Lost Dutchman was mining for his gold up here. The Lost Dutchman mine to me is pretty much a fable, but the Lost Dutchman is not. He's very well documented. He was found dead along with his belongings, and in his saddlebags they found many large nuggets of gold, and that started the mystery as to where he found the gold, and people have been looking for it ever since. Even today, I know there's a prominent attorney in the Phoenix area that to this day spends a lot of time looking for that mine. He's done a lot of research, and he truly believes that it is there somewhere. It just needs to be found. Well, we'll get this thing back on the ground. There's always somebody wanting to ask you 100 questions when you're trying to land the drone. But it's not a problem. The Phantom 2 is just so stable, it really is child's play to fly it. Well, here we are at the Goldfield Mine. You can tell it's a tourist trap. They've even put a zip line in. Zip lines are everywhere now, it seems like. This is just some of the more of the Superstition Mountains that's in the area. This is the very beginning of them. A lot of old artifacts that were used in the mining industry here. I'm sure some of this stuff is genuine and it was actually used in the mines, and I found an awful lot of stuff that didn't belong here at all. It was just old, so I think they just put it here.
Oh, pardon me.
You know they had to do that. I took this picture particularly for some of my mechanic friends. I need some help describing this engine. It appears to be a 6-cylinder engine, with 3 of the cylinders having the traditional 1 spark plug per cylinder and the other 3 cylinders having 2 spark plugs per cylinders. Here's a Linotype machine. This thing has absolutely nothing to do with the mining industry. This was used in the printing industry, so not sure why it's there. There's a water tower. I bet doesn't hold much water anymore. Of course, you got to have a church. All small mining towns had a church, and they also had a bordello, so this town had everything. A lot of neat shops in this little place. It actually is pretty nice. Of course, they dialed this old train up to look like a steam engine, but it's just driven by an old Perkins diesel. The train runs for a couple of miles around the town here, and they do give you a lot of great information about the history and stuff. I rode it once, but I guess once was enough. This pretty much winds up our trip to Tortilla Flat. We sure enjoyed our time out there. I'm sure we'll be back out there again. So we'll see you next time when we find something else interesting to video.